Before we start today's roundtable, I want to give special thanks to Checkster, our group sponsor. Checkster has become well known in the recruiting industry by providing a platform that easily captures reference checks in the hiring process. I myself have been a customer of theirs for years. I use a reference checking tool for all of my new hires. However, Checkster has now released a new product suite called Insights. This new product suite is really what has excited me to have Checkster as the group sponsor. With Insights, the Checkster platform now covers employees from cradle to grave and not just reference checking, starting when they apply, going to offer, through onboarding, then covering their work at your company, and then to the end with exit interviews. It's an easy to use, easy to understand way of giving and getting feedback from your peers. Checkster's simple goal, to build more productive and passionate teams. Now, if this concept of getting insights from your peers regarding your work sounds familiar, it should, because that's the simple goal of this group. Connecting, communicating, collaborating. Support me, support the group. Follow the link below, recruiting.org/Checkster. This will take you to a landing page to sign up for a quick demo. If you are just thinking about automating your reference checking process, it'll be well worth your time. But I encourage you to check out the full Insights suite. I'd love to find out if you feel the way I feel about it. Now let's get to today's roundtable. Yes. All right, let's jump right into it. Thank you everybody for attending episode 63 in Let's Talk Recruiting, where peer practitioners in the TA industry all to get together to talk around a round table, figuratively speaking, around different and various topics that we all come across on a daily basis. Today's topic, what to do when recruiters have rec overload. I think it comes across everybody's desk quite often. With us, we have Sam Schloss. Did I get your name right, Sam, your last name?
Right on target.
All right, cool. I always got to check myself with people's names. Out of New York City, Michael Lushiski. Did I get it right?
Hit it on the nail.
Okay. Michael's out of Boston. We have Gene Sheehan out of New York City. We have Deborah Bamus.
Amos, yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm doing all right today. I'm kind of impressed. And Craig, I think I messed this up the first time. Natalia, are you Italian?
Correct.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Correct. All right. I'm very proud of myself. I did pretty good today. All right. I always kid myself because I grew up in middle Wisconsin where everybody was Pat, Steve, and Michelle. So I didn't get tested by names or anything like that. All right, today's topic, what to do when recruiters have rec overload. We got 5 great panelists on board, so we're going to jump right into it. Sam, I'm going to jump over to you to start with your items that you wanted to cover.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Sean, for hosting this, and it's great to be with all of you today. And I'm looking forward to hearing all of your backgrounds and, of course, taking some best practices here today. I don't know everything, but I hope I can provide some insight into what I've had in my career thus far. In terms of what I do, I'm the talent acquisition specialist for Thomas. We support manufacturing clients and we support the buying process and allow them to connect with suppliers and essentially boost their marketing tactics, help build out their websites, and really empower their businesses. So I do hiring for the entire business, and rec overloads are something that happen quite often, especially before the pandemic, before things slowed down a bit. But I'd be working with 16 to 20 recs at a time. And what I noticed earlier in my career when I started recruiting was to set expectations early and often with hiring managers. How much time do they have before they're going to hit an urgent time that they need this role filled as soon as possible? Of course, every hiring manager wants this person to be filled yesterday, but realistically speaking, I have other roles I need to fill. How should I prioritize your role? Do you need them now, or can your team allocate different tasks over the next 30 to 60 days so I can at least space my roles out evenly and not put you in an uncomfortable position? Number 2, having a set process in place across the business is something I've found to be very effective, especially now here at Thomas. In my last role, what I found frustrating is sometimes hiring managers don't feel as if they are a partner in the hiring process. And that's what I see hiring managers as, partners. Yes, I'm going out and doing the recruiting, I'm sourcing candidates, I'm doing the initial interviews, but I want them to be just as involved in the process as I am. So having a simplified process across the business, understanding what stages are involved, the expectations of managers of how long they need to take to review resumes, how much time it needs to take for them to have their calls finished. So we can at least hold each other accountable and continue the process and keep the pipeline moving. And also being proactive, being upfront with hiring managers and upper management how do we forecast the business in the next 6 to 12 months? Where do we see the business going, and what roles will be critical to moving forward? And that's really when it comes to sourcing candidates early and often. Even if the role is not open yet, having a conversation, hey, we may have a role opening up in the next 6 to 12 months. Is this something you'd be interested in? Let's reconnect down the line. So once we are ready to go, once we get the green light to hire, say it's a digital marketing strategist or a product manager, we already have a pipeline ready to go, and we're already ahead of the game. So it comes to process, accountability, and being proactive. I think those three factors have really allowed for me to manage workload when it comes to having multiple managers coming at you and pulling you, and I'm the only recruiter in the business. So that really means that being that much more organized and process driven will allow for you to have that much less stress in the long run.
It's saying when you talk about sort of combining partners in the process piece of it, in those early conversations of setting the expectations, are you so let's say you're at your max, let's say you're at 25 and that's max. Are you telling the managers when you're getting a new record, doing that introductory meeting, hey, this is where I'm at, which means you're not going to be probably hearing from me for a week or just whatever the case may be? Are you kind of setting the tone of including them in that process of, I'm at my max right now, so let's set our expectations? Is that bad news part of your conversation?
Yeah, I mean, transparency and realistic expectations are anything a manager would want. I would hate to set false expectations of, hey, I'll get you, everything you need in the next week, and then I'll be 3 weeks behind and I lose credibility. So it's really about, hey, I'm the only recruiter here. If you do have the budget, I do suggest you reaching out to a third party just to make sure we're continuously getting resumes in and I'm not falling behind. So yeah, being realistic early and often, it's not an easy conversation to have. You want to save money for the business and not immediately spend on the outside. But now that the managers have an expectation early on, they can at least not feel as if there was a sense of false pretenses set early on by me, and they wouldn't rely on me moving forward because I'm not giving them a realistic framework of what I'm dealing with. So it may not be an easy decision, and it may not be an easy conversation to have at first, but it's necessary and builds trust over time.
Being a one-man show, when you talk, oh, sorry, Craig, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned setting expectations. I think a big part of this is really being transparent with the executives in the organization or with HR leadership to say, look, once we get past X recs, whether that's 15 or 20, whatever the number is, please understand that the service level will start to drop. Please understand that hiring manager satisfaction will drop. If you're putting a survey out for candidate satisfaction, that will drop. So you need to be comfortable, if you're going to overload the team, that your index, your survey scores is going to start to go down. There's going to start to be noise in the business, and you need to be comfortable with that if you're going to tax the team with additional requisitions. And if you're not having those conversations with the business ahead of time, then you're not setting up the team for success. I know in your case, it's just you're an N of one, but when you have a global team or you have a large regional team, it's looking at those rec loads and trying to balance them, right? Being aware of, John's got 17 recs, but Jill's got 9. Why? Can you rebalance the rec loads? Can you set up those expectations? And, when you're an N of one, Sam, it's a super challenge, right? Because, to your point, you can't balance the rec loads with anybody else.
It's a great point. And that's why I had mentioned earlier, when I speak directly to these hiring managers, I actually had conducted a training with them, pretty much streamlining and standardizing a hiring process across the business and letting them know, hey, you all completed a survey telling me that you only need 3 to 5 business days to complete your end of the hiring process. So my expectation from you is that you'll hold up your front of the hiring process. We are partners in this process. It's a competitive market out there. And as long as we can at least keep everything moving, I can do my job effectively, and I won't have to look over my shoulder knowing that a part of the process was left out, because I know you're working with me to get things done in a realistic and timely manner.
Good. Quick question for you on how you're pipelining, right? Because in my mind, you pipeline for future needs to lessen that sourcing time, or what have you, kind of have like that go-to list of people. Now, being a one-man show, I'm guessing that your pipelines are in spreadsheets. Is that accurate?
Well, I use LinkedIn Recruiter, and I have a pipeline management process in the back end. that allows for me to at least keep people in future prospects or contacted, so I can at least easily differentiate them when I do need to at least start the process again.
Love to hear that. Getting off a spreadsheet.
I do do spreadsheets, yes, but LinkedIn Recruiter pipeline has been very helpful.
So here's my question, especially since you already have them in LinkedIn. Are you, once you put a person in the pipeline for future engagement, are you vetting those candidates with the managers as yes, they are qualified for future engagement, or is this kind of based upon your judgment?
That's a great question. So yes and yes, but at the same time, when it comes to sourcing candidates, it's my judgment. I'm going out and vetting these candidates on my own. I've worked so closely with these hiring managers that I know what they want. And that's involved, I'm sure, with everyone that's on this call. Mm-hmm. You need to understand how your managers think and the type of candidates that they want. So I've developed at least the confidence when sourcing candidates who will at least pass the test, that when I do pass them off to a hiring manager saying, hey, they didn't apply, they were passively reached out to, but I'm confident that they would be worth 30 minutes on your line because, they're not looking for a job right now, but we can at least sell ourselves enough to say, hey, we can get a good candidate in the building right now. So yes, I take that proactive approach, and I don't need to go to managers and say, hey, I'm reaching out to this person if that's okay. I want to own this. I want to make sure that I'm bringing them quality and getting ahead of the game, because that will give them that much more trust in me to take the load.
Well, and that also brings value to your hiring managers.
Yes.
You shouldn't have to go to them with every candidate to say, please review this profile. If you've done your due diligence and you've really listened to them, you know what they want, right? You should really, realistically, in my view, be able to put 3 to 4 candidates in front of a hiring manager and say, you could hire any one of these people because I fully vetted them. I understand their background. They fit the team. They fit the company. Let's do this, right? Not put 25 profiles in front of someone. They don't have time for that.
The best case scenario that I want to be in by the end of the process is we have too many candidates and too little jobs to fill. I want them to stay. I would hire all of them. So let's keep them warm for hopefully in the next 3 months. I'll keep them in touch, and we're going to cut our time to fill in half. So
I think too, you being able to pivot candidates too, if they have very similar skill sets to other parts of the business, we do quite frequently at Wayfair. So definitely always, that's perfect scenario, at least for us. So.
Excellent, Sam. It sounds like you being a one-man show, you got everything on point. I love hearing like you have that trust in the managers, because to Deborah, to your point, it's just such a good partnership when you have that. And then just when it comes to managing your rec load, when you're at that level, you can skip that resume submittal time or phone screen time. And my always level or bar was, you got a perfect relationship with the hiring manager is when you can just go from screening a candidate to setting an interview time on calendar. If you can make that an on-site interview, great. But just being able to own their calendar, so to speak, is a fantastic bar. Hey, I'm before we jump over to Michael, I'm gonna do a poll really quick. It kind of goes along with Sam's predicament. It's kind of what is your team structured? So I'm asking everybody, do you have a scheduling coordinator at your company, or if you've been impacted by COVID at your previous employer? And then, well, full life cycle, if you're getting sourcer support. Sam, I think I already know the answer to your question, or your answers to these questions. I do not envy you, to be honest with you, but it sounds like you're doing great. So as people are answering the poll, Michael, how about we jump over to you and to your items?
Sounds good. Well, hi, everyone. Sean, thanks for putting this together. So my name is Mike Leszewski. I'm a recruiter for the platform engineering team at Wayfair. So just relocated to Boston back actually in October of last year. So, but at any rate, so to kind of dig right in, so understanding your rec load, and obviously that fluctuates due to various whatever. It obviously ties into what's going on in the business, right? I think we always want to kind of look at the main pillars of why are we hiring so many positions right this second? Why are 25 coming down the pipe right this second? And understand. What do we need? Are we looking for sales folks? Are we looking for site reliability engineers? Kind of understanding what the profile looks like. You're working with the manager to. I think Sam really hit it too. It's like we want to have an intake meeting. We want to understand the profile of the candidate. What does the interview process look like? If we're hiring a bunch of software engineers, like we want to have a very standardized process, because at the end of the day too, we want to somehow not sacrifice as much service to our business partners, as typically it happens with this. But standardizing that process. So hey, John Smith's great. We want to make an offer. It's like, well, what's the timeline to getting that offer out? Are we convening as a group within 72 hours, which we do at Wayfair, which is great because the managers know that SLA like right off the bat. Like, no, we're debriefing within 72 hours. Two, I probably should have stated this first. We want to prioritize or set priority on the position. So what is the one that's on fire, and what's the one that can wait 6 weeks from now? And two, we also want to be very thoughtful of the candidate experience, especially with us. We're really digging into the NPS scores, and we want to understand where are we missing the bar from an experience standpoint, but where are some of the wins too that we're bringing home. So, and then two, sending out weekly cadence reports. We definitely want to make sure that the stakeholders are in the know. They don't have to ask us, where we're at with these candidates. Like, hey, no, we have 6 on-site interviews this week. We have 4 phone interviews next week, so on and so forth.
Yeah, Michael, to that point, I put out a global red, amber, green rec report. We manage about 150 recs at any given time. We're an 1,800 person pharma company. And the red, amber, green, so you have the typical rec report where it says, hiring manager, recruiter, title, organization, let's say. But we also have a notes, like column J in the spreadsheet will just be notes, and that would say, 2 at hiring manager phone screen, 1 at final rounds, or, references being checked. And then the red, amber, green is there really for the business. It gives the business a chance to calibrate our version of the status of the rec versus their version, right? Because if my recruiter has it out as green, the business say, hey, time out. That's not green. Why do you think that's green? That should be yellow. I'm not happy with the candidate pool. It forces a discussion, right? So we put our lens on the line by doing a red, amber, green status. The business has a chance to calibrate against that, and then we report. So I think anyone who's running a team, like, you should never be surprised by your rec overload, because you should be looking at the daily rec reports that come in, assuming you have, whatever you have, Taleo or ISIMs, or I don't know what. There's a million ATMs, obviously, or ATSs. But
absolutely,
if you're leading a team, there should be no surprises unless we have attrition, right? Or there's an acquisition that comes in, and suddenly, like right now, most of our organizations are going through the workforce plan for 2021, right? So you got your various businesses meeting with their HR business partners and the executive committee, and they're trying to dot I's and cross T's in the 2021 workforce plan. Well, we'll get that the second week of December. You get together with the team, look at the workforce plan, you align the recruiters and the strategy, and then sure enough, Jane Doe leaves second week into January. Like, oh my God, she's a 9-box talent. She is in a succession plan. Suddenly, you've got the highest priority requisition in the business you never planned for. And when that happens time and time again, like they say, the best laid plans, until you get punched in the mouth, everyone has a plan.
Absolutely. I think it really ties into, it's like, what's coming 6 months from now that we can get a head start on. And yeah, I think you and Sam brought up a really good point. We're pipelining now for roles that we're holding close to our chest until we get past December, because right now it's like heavy revenue generating season for Wayfair, just like any retailer, right? So we kind of want to build that pipeline, get people kind of in process, and then move as fast as we can, pretty much Jan 1. So I do like the red, amber, and yellow rec report, though. I think that definitely might be something I might have to bring up with my manager.
There you go.
Question for the panel is kind of what both Craig and Michael are talking about around workforce planning and being strategic. We've all heard, although I haven't heard it too much lately, the whole, we want a seat at the table. I really think TA does have a seat at the table, and they are involved in workforce planning much more than they have been in the past. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but so here's my question. If we can get a company that can do the workforce planning, I don't think all of them do it or do it well, but let's say we're there, and we can show that, hey, at our current recruiter headcount, let's say we have 6 on the team, and with this new growth planning coming, I'm going to need budget for 3 more additional recruiters. Are we at a point in our TA programs where when we can justify additional headcount, we're getting that budget for it?
That goes back to the question you ask of the business. You say to the CHRO, look, this is where we are. We're going to be short on recs. We're short on recruiters. I need 2 contract recruiters for 6 months. And if they want to understand why, you simply say, well, then get ready for the noise in the business. So I either need the budget or you need to get ready to hear noise.
Exactly. We had one year where we doubled our hiring, and it was, if we wanted to meet those numbers, we needed to bring in contract staffing to help with the recruitment.
Do we have like a range of rec numbers that we can define as, hey, we're hitting rec overload? Kind of getting back to the red light, green light thing, it's kind of the RPM dial. We're getting into the red.
Depends on the business, right? Somebody commented in the chat that they have call center recs. And I would argue, 20 call center recs does not equal 20 recs in clinical development, right? Mm-hmm. So the leader of that team understands, you could have people on your same team handling rec loads that are twice the number of other people on the team, but they're still at 100% utilization, right? It's really utilization. You don't want one recruiter 125% and one at 75%. It's almost like rec loads don't matter. It's utilization that matters.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, for the recs, like I've got one recruiter that can handle 25, and I've got somebody that can handle 6. And the reason is that what this person with 6 is working on is completely different. Like everybody's a unicorn. Everybody's like there's 1 or 2 in the US. So that's different. I think you just really need to assess what you're looking for. There's not like a cookie cutter across the board answer to that. At least not at my company at all.
Right. I think too, it's you have to encourage recruiters to ask for help too. It's like, do we have sourcing support? Do we have folks that are operating somewhat similar skill sets, but 2 recs over here and you have 20? Like, see if you can pass some of them off, because again, you want to provide a really great customer service for not only your candidates but also your managers as well.
Yeah, we don't need heroes, right? Like I tell my team all the time, I don't need you to be a hero. I need you to think about hiring manager and candidate satisfaction, right? So if anything gets in the way, let me remove those obstacles for you. Let me go to, the C-suite if that's the issue, but you need to be able to do your job. And I don't want it to take 65 hours, right? That's the other piece, right? So we all have people on our teams that will smile at you in the one-to-one or in the skip level. They love their job. They're so happy to be in their role. But behind the scenes, they're working 65, 70 hours a week, and that's not fair. It's not sustainable. And, that we don't want them to be a hero. Come to us, be transparent, tell us that you're not sleeping at night or that you're stressed out about the rec load. And, again, people react how they want to react and respond. We can't always get it in full compliance, but.
Yeah, Craig, a follow-up to that point, if you're a TA leader, I would give special attention if you have recruiters on contract who are working that hourly rate. Because I've seen many times where a contract recruiter gets paid by the hour, right? They're not salaried. So they don't log their overtime hours because they don't want to charge more to their client, fearing that they'll get let go because of the cost. But they're working overtime. They're working those night hours just to get the job.
We pay them monthly. And when we have to pull in people for an expansion or for a spike in business, we'll pull them in at, whatever, $12,000 a month or $15,000 a month. And then we'll do it for a 90-day contract or 180-day contract. This way, they know they just have to get the job done, whatever works for them.
Yeah, we do that too. But I still try to monitor how many hours they're working by having those conversations all the time. You can tell if someone's working too much. They're starting to get a little grumpy with you or
hangry.
Yeah. If the 2 a.m. emails don't give it away. Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
A 2 a.m. email is like letting them see you sweat. I never sent an email at 2 a.m. Jean, let's jump over to you. Thank you very much, Michael.
Of course.
Hello, I'm Jean Sheehan, and I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition at Conserve, a collections agency in the upstate New York area. And thank you, Sean, for hosting this. And it's great to be part of this excellent panel. And I'm already picking up things, and I hope we all do. So as has already really been discussed, my key points would be communication and prioritizing. Communication, starting with senior management, setting those expectations, but also with your recruiters to make sure that they're on the same plain as everyone else and understand that we're a team. I think that's one of the things that we do well is we're a team, and we hire for the call center positions, and then we have a separate person who hires for the ancillary groups. But we shift. If one location is busy, or busier than the other, or we need help and there's deadlines coming up in the Buffalo office, then another office supports them and vice versa. Similar to what you were saying, shifting rec loads or shifting to help with interviews, etc. And we have experienced both situations where in the past, as I mentioned earlier, we've had double our hiring one year. And again, talking to senior management, can we get the budget to hire contractors? Fortunately, we were able to, so we brought those in. So looking at different resources, flexibility within the team, communication. If there's any other, I think Sam had mentioned too, having a standardized process is critical, because then everybody knows what to do, when to do it, what's the next step. And anyone can pick up where someone else left off if needed. And then we've also experienced where, like now with the pandemic and all, we're a lot slower, our staffing size is smaller. And so once we do start hiring again, assuming we're going to pick up next year as we anticipate, our recruiting staff is short-staffed right now. So we're either going to have to, what we've already put in place, and we've communicated to leadership and to all of management, here's a different process. What maybe the hiring managers, yes, they're busy, but maybe they're going to have to pick up some of the pieces that they weren't picking up before. And then
when you do get to staff up again, that there are some amazing resources available on the market these days. Folks who got laid off, there's some fantastic hires to be made out there for your team.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. It's hard when you see staff, especially from recruiters that have just done a tremendous job, and you have to let go. It's tough. And believe me, I'm keeping my eye on them too. So, and there's definitely a lot of people available in the workforce right now.
Yeah.
I think there's some, I'm sorry, Jean, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say behaviorally, right? We're all sitting here and we all have teams of recruiters, or even if we're running individual desks ourselves, there are behavioral things we can do in the short term to get through a spike. Like, for example, and I've got this, someone on my team that will literally phone screen 12 or 15 candidates to get 5 or 6 to go to the business. And I would tell a recruiter, stop, phone screen 4 first, send the best 2 to the business, recalibrate. You may not ever had to screen those other 10 people, because you realize now, despite the intake meeting, that the hiring manager is really leaning towards this type of profile. So, you can do less on the front end and ask the business to do a little bit more as well, or you can bifurcate. You're going to send this to an agency, you're going to put this out to contingent, you're going to do this yourself, you're going to give this to a sourcer. And again, that goes back to the prioritization, short-term, medium-term, long-term as well. Because I think the business understands, right? If you're running 100 recs or 200 recs or 500 recs, all recs are not created equal. They don't all impact the business at the same level, whether it's top-line revenue, bottom-line revenue, optics, et cetera. So there are things we can do without budget, just behaviorally, that can help you get through that spike.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
To your point, kind of, Gene, just drill down a little bit on the word prioritize, right? So when the attendees registered, we asked, hey, what is one thing you recommend? Prioritization was by far the number one thing said by the audience members, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it mostly was built around prioritizing recs. But Craig, kind of to your point, and this is sort of how I used to do it, and I still do it the way I got brought into the recruiting game. This was just before email was out, so we had paper, right? So you managed on your desk. You didn't have a computer, you had your telephone. And I tend to move the recs from left to right on my desk as according to the stages that they were in. So I used to prioritize the rec load that I had based upon, is this rec doing on-site interviews? Is this rec closing? Or is this rec reviewing resumes? And I think it follows along with your point, Craig, about, hey, you got the two, move them forward. Don't sit there on the phone, get what you got going. So that was like, do a day's work, move your slate forward, get to that network, move that slate forward, wherever stage they're in, but always try to touch and nudge each rec along the way, get it closer to closing. From a tactical side, any thoughts around like getting a little granular in managing those recs inside of them versus the strategic business approach?
I mean, you could break down by day. If you got 5 hiring managers or 5 business units, you can do 1 business unit a day if it got really bad. Because look, the work you do on Monday, if you spend 2 hours sourcing on Monday, getting through calls and LinkedIn and reach outs, et cetera, you've planted those seeds. Now you can ignore that rec for several days, see what comes in the pipeline while you're working on other requisitions in other parts of the business. So you can do it, morning versus afternoon. I would tell people, block out your calendar. Literally take an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, block it out. My calendar's blocked out on Saturdays and Sundays as well, which is how you know it's a crock of you-know-what. And I just block out that time. I've got 3 o'clock blocked out, and I've got 9 o'clock blocked out 7 days a week, because that gives me the chance to catch up with the things I need to do, where you won't have an impromptu meeting, and it gives you a chance to catch up. So you could do it by hours, you could do it by days of the week, you could do it by the business, and just understand that, when you plant the seeds, it's going to take a few days to grow, right? So if you invest in that rec that one day, you can push it off for several days and then go back to it.
That's pretty much my survival tactic, Greg. Right, hit it right on the head.
Yes. Yeah, and some managers you work with, are going to be slow also to respond. And so you're still going to work on those recs, but you're not necessarily going to work on them quite as quickly
or
as
even every
others.
day.
Right. And then other positions that are difficult to fill, like Deborah mentioned, one person, you find one hot person, you want to move on them because they fit the bill. So that would take priority.
And I think it's incumbent upon us too to understand the candidate motivations, right? We're spending all the time talking about the business, but if you've got a candidate, because good candidates are doing what? They're trying to align their interview processes so they get offers on the same day or the same week. So you have to understand, is your candidate behind other processes that they're up against? Are they in front of other processes? Because you do have a chance to delay or expedite just the same candidate based upon your knowledge of where they are.
Right. It's like, where are you in your search? Like, do you have a final interview today and we're just talking today in terms of a phone interview? It's like, shoot, like, is it worth expediting you or moving on? So,
Right.
I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go Michael, go ahead, finish, sorry.
I was going to say, too, to kind of tie into this, especially we've been seeing a lot of pushes for software engineering. So we've been doing sourcing power hours together as a team, and a team for tech recruiting is close to 75 people at Wayfair. So 45, 50 of us are getting on a call for an hour, and we're just, I wouldn't say we're blasting, but we're being very thoughtful in our search. You obviously putting together a Boolean search beforehand to whoever's leading it, and we're just building out a list. So, and then we kind of prioritize based on profiles afterwards.
So we've done that back in the day when there was people working in offices. We would have what we call just sourcing jams in the office, and we'd entice people by, here's pizza and some drinks. And then we would pick 3 critical roles and have the hiring managers come up and do a 2-minute pitch on their role. And everyone in the office would jump on their LinkedIn networks or whatever networks, and we'd have a Google sheet going and people just be adding profiles to it. And then the recruiters would be like real time reviewing profiles with the hiring manager as people are adding them. We had prizes, which was really enticing to people. We actually found some really great people for a lot of different positions in our company. Plus the team felt like they were part of the process, not the recruiting team, but like the whole office team.
Yep.
We even had our CEO jumping on the Google sheet and adding to it.
That's pretty cool.
That's the point, Deborah, and that's what I'm trying to at least display to the rest of the company. This is a we process. It's not a me process. Sure, I'm starting, the engagement with these candidates, but you're just as involved as I am, and the final decision hinges on you. So the more you put in, the better candidate we'll get. So that's awesome that you integrate them so early on and actually make it enjoyable.
Recruiting starts top down. If your CEO and executive team are not brought into recruiting and spending time on it, it's not going to work. Like our execs feel like they should be spending 20% of their time helping to bring amazing people into our company. Like that's part of their job and they know it. And we get some amazing referrals from them. Some of them are just like, sorry, we can't hire your buddy, but thank you.
What nepotism? What do you mean? No, Deborah, to your point, I think, they've done, and I'd have to go look at, whatever Deloitte surveys or whatever Gartner or some of these other groups. But I'm fairly certain that when you poll 100 CEOs almost across, industry agnostic CEOs, that 50% of them say that their people in recruiting is like a top 3 priority. So they know, and to your point, they've got to be invested in it. And really, if you're in a 1,000-person company, the best chance that company has at success is to have 1,000 person believing they're recruiters, right? Because I'll go into an executive and say, look, I am not an early clinical development expert. I don't do toxicology work, okay? So I can recruit, I can screen, I can do all the process work, but I'm not going to have the network in toxicology. You will. So let's sit down together. Like, let me slide over to your office. Or we'll share a screen on LinkedIn. Let's go through your very own network and see what we can uncover.
Agreed. When we have new folks, managers join our company, I'll have a one-on-one with them and I tell them, you will have open roles under you. They may come and inherit some. And I tell them, like, look, ultimately it's your responsibility if this role gets filled or not. It's your responsibility. This is your open role. Recruiting and HR, we're here to help you. We're here to assist you. But you have to be an active participant in the process.
Which means, guess what? If you're running 20 recs and you have 2 hiring managers who never get back to you in time, guess where the prioritization of those recs go?
Back of the list.
I mean, it's a partnership. So if you're not going to respond to feedback, you're not going to respond to resumes, you're a pain in the neck to get a hold of to schedule interviews, there's no way you're going to get to the top of the list. And go ahead and complain. I dare you.
I'd love to see the business get involved in the recruiting process, because I think recruiting is a profession that if you're never really in it, you really don't know what it is. You may have your ideas of what it is and how to do it. Usually they're a bit off, but until you're in that game in the mix, like, oh, this is what you guys do. This is what you have to go through and deal with. So I love seeing the business involved in that process for it. Deborah, let's jump over to you and to your items. We haven't covered them already.
So great to meet everyone, all the participants as well. So my name is Deborah Bamus. I am leading talent for Era Technology. So we are a global startup. There's about 400 of us globally. We are creating a new category in technology, which is cognitive automation. So we're heavily in artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing. So the folks that we look for are super specialized and hard to find because we're making a lot of this up as we go along. So I lead the global recruiting team from EMEA and Romania, India, US. So have a lot of conversations every day and night and morning in all these different time zones. I actually think that my job as leading the TA team is to listen to the team. I help remove their roadblocks. I help knock down some of the mountains in their way to get done what they need. I will be the bad guy. I'll go to the hiring manager and say, sorry, your rec is at the bottom of the list because you are unresponsive, you are not participating. And I just really empower my team because I was super fortunate to have a mentor early in my career that taught me to fish. I would go to him with a question and he wouldn't answer my question, but he would help me find an answer. So that's kind of that's the way I lead my team now, is I don't necessarily give them the answer. We talk through solutions, and I know sometimes I make them crazy. but they learn to figure it out. And I'm just not going to be that quick answer on Slack for them every time. Right. So, yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. And, right now within COVID, we've slowed our hiring a little bit. We haven't stopped, but we've slowed it just a little bit. So the recruiting team is really using our time right now to source and pipeline candidates. Almost every candidate that we're getting across the line, which is like probably 5 or 6 a week, almost every single one of them are direct source from the recruiting team, which is really great to see. It's not post and pray. They're actually out there sourcing candidates.
Is that a strategy, post and pray?
It's a method.
It's a plan. I don't know if it's a strategy.
It's definitely one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're going after.
Take what you can.
So, prioritizing, I said, we talk about it every day. We talk to hiring managers every day and have those tough conversations about, I get that you're in meetings for the next 2 weeks. Great. We're not going to really actively go after your candidates because you're not going to be able to talk to them anyways. And by the time we talk to a candidate, they're probably going to be gone because the market is so hot for what we do. Right.
Deborah, is it just kind of like a feel that you have when you think, okay, I've done as much teaching, I've done as much mentoring as I can. Now's the time, or I need to partner with my recruiter and go engage with the business line. Is it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have really good open communication with them. Well, they will say, hey, Deb, I really just need you to, help me on this because I'm at a stopping point. Like, I don't know what to do on it. And so then we'll talk through it and I'll help them figure out what the solution is. And I'm also that person that's going to run it up to the executive team and have those conversations with our VP of finance or the CEO or director of operations or whatever to say, hey, it's not going to work this way. No, this is a path that we need to go in because I'm relying on the recruiting team who are the subject matter experts in what they do. And I really stress that to the business, to the hiring managers and everyone. Recruiters are subject matter experts. So we need to listen to them, right? They work really hard. Recruiting's not easy. People think it's easy. It's hard. You guys know it's hard.
But Deborah, to your point, the business often thinks they can do our job. And you immediately know when you're having a conversation with even an executive and you say, well, just give it to like 5 or 6 agencies. And I'm like, no, that's not how you do that. You don't give a rec to 5 or 6. I don't want our brand being destroyed in the marketplace. I don't want candidates being called by multiple agencies. Stop. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm not a regulatory affairs expert, right? I'm not a board certified oncologist. You do that work. Let me handle the recruiting, okay? That's what we do. We've hired, X amount of people for you over X amount of years. We're fine. You do your job. We'll do our job. It's so funny to your point, right? They're like, oh, well, just do this. It's like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I think, Craig, to your point earlier, the hiring managers, we get them very much engaged. If you're a VP of engineering, I would assume that your network is all engineering folks, right?
Right. You hope.
So let's dive into your network. I'm happy to show you how to do that. We also set up proxy accounts. So if the hiring manager truly is too busy, they have something going on, we'll set up a proxy account and either I or the recruiter can send out LinkedIn messages on their behalf and it looks exactly like it's coming from the hiring manager. But it's our messaging, we control it, we get the responses back. It tends to work really well because candidates are going to respond better if a VP of engineering is contacting them.
That's right. That's right. It's like a 3 times the rate of response if the hiring manager reaches out to the candidate versus a recruiter, because a lot of candidates are still a little skeptical. Are you an agency? Are you in-house? Are you a contractor? Like, right. Who are you, right? Whom exactly am I speaking with in this process, as opposed to your point, the VP of engineering who's been there for 5 years, they can quickly look that up. They see, okay, this is good.
Yep. Yeah.
Do we use, let's say we have an overly high rec load. Is that kind of a trigger to go have those conversations where, hey, hiring manager or hiring team, I need you individuals to do this, to reach out to your network? Or is that kind of just part of the game? So I got to think a lot of hiring teams will think, well, isn't that your job? Because I got to go do my job. But to make them see the value in doing that, is Is it a trigger, or how could we approach that on a regular
For us,
basis?
it's just normal it's just normal business that the hiring managers are involved. And if they're not, their rec goes to the bottom. And then they usually end up getting, a Slack or a call from me to say, hey, it sounds like you're kind of busy right now. So we're gonna back burner this. We're gonna slow roll it, and we're gonna pop up another one that's more of a high priority for the team.
Yeah. And on top of
And
that,
they're usually like, wait, no, I really need that person.
and even on top of that, asking them to do simple acts, maybe posting it to LinkedIn, sharing it with their network, having their team share it to their networks. Those small things can actually just expedite the flow of candidates through your pipeline quicker. And reinforcing in the Slack channel, hey, we have an employee referral bonus. Just letting you guys know this is a thing. Check out our careers page once a week. If we have something new, we'll let you know. But at the same time, check out your network. You can get a couple $1,000 just for putting someone in front of us. So, putting the onus back on the company as well, knowing that there are perks for you here that we've set in place for you to take advantage of.
Right.
So yes, going to the hiring manager to do small acts. I don't ever want to step on their toes and make them do more than they have to, but those little things do go a long way.
Yeah.
These intake meetings, the purpose of an intake meeting is it's a verbal contract, and you have these verbal or even actual SLAs, right? So Deborah, you're my hiring manager. This is what I need from you, right? This is what we're going to do on my end. We're going to get the job posted. We're going to screen candidates. We're going to go through our various channels, employee referrals, yada, yada. Here's what I need from you, right? And you laid on the line your expectations of the business. And that's where you can set those expectations, and they'll understand, wow, so, okay, you're going to ask me to come forward with whatever, 3 names of people that I know.
So we actually did that. We put together an intake form. It's actually a spreadsheet that lives on the Google Drive, and the recruiters go through it, and it's like 6 tabs on there. Everything from what the process is to provide sample examples. What are the key questions you want the recruiters to ask? What does a successful candidate look like? What are the answers that you're looking for to these questions? Next steps from HR, recruiting, hiring managers, and everybody commits to it. Like, you sign off on that. So when they come back and they're like, hey, it's almost like it's not a contract, but we all collaborated together on it. So there's been times we've had to go back and refer to that.
Yeah, because you're 6 weeks in, and suddenly there's been a change of scope. Suddenly the hiring manager decides that, well, I know when we met, I was emphasizing point A and point B. I kind of think now we might need point C. And you're like, well, hold on. When we spoke 48 days ago, those are the priorities. Now you're telling me, 6 weeks later or 7 weeks later that they've changed. So let me go back through the candidates based upon that, because I screened out people based upon that initial set of expectations. So
but that's an even bigger question, though, Craig, because if the scope changed, how does that impact the
job description?
And the business as a whole.
Right.
Right.
Well,
because
and it could be more nuanced, but to your point, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a legitimate change.
How does that work? And maybe because we're smaller, that's a big consideration for us. If we're going to go from a senior machine learning engineer to an associate, like, what does that mean? Like, what's going to get done? What's not going to get done?
Yep.
Right. And then we're going to have to hire 3 of these people instead of 1. Right. There's a lot of things that happen there.
Yep.
One quick point around employee referral networks, Craig, before we jump over to you. One little tip I would give everybody, and I used to, would do this every time I started a company, is that I'd send out LinkedIn connection requests. Like, I do 25 to 50 a day for the first 3 months. Hey, I'm the new guy, let's connect. And then kind of if I connect and share the network, that allowed me that future down the road, I could get some introspective to see who they connected to that I'm trying to target to. It takes time to do that. So I always recommend 25 a day when you start a new gig. Start connecting to your coworkers. All right, Craig, let's jump over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I've got a super hard stop at about 2 minutes to the hour, so I've got to jump on an intake call, ironically. And I think we covered a lot of this. I did write some things down that I'll just quickly go through. I think we talked about sort of mitigating surprises with a daily check of the rec loads, right? If you're running a team, you should never be surprised by anybody's rec load. I think that's fair. Proactively looking to balance the rec loads, we talked about that, and it doesn't mean the same number of recs, it means the same amount of utilization, right? You want everyone to be, 99% utilized or 100% utilized. You don't want them over 100. You certainly don't want them below 90. And if you do have to reallocate some of those recs or some of that business, make every effort to maintain the existing recruiter and business partnership success, right? The last thing you want to do is take a recruiter who's had great success with a business and then have to pull them out of that business to handle a spike in business somewhere else. That should be the last thing you'd have to do. And I think we talked about, understanding all recs are not created equal. I think you need to have a short list of contractors or RPO firms where you can make one phone call or several phone calls and know you can have a contractor ready to go for 90 days. They've already been through legal. You already know they're an LLC or an S Corp or a 1099, or you can run them through your contingent labor program, but have people ready to go so that you can literally flip a switch in 5 business days if the rec load spikes. And again, I'd look for some of those synergies in rec loads, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there are recruiters on the team who can be recruiting very similar like recs, and that makes the most sense to transition some of those to the others. Mm-hmm. We talked about potentially dialing up sourcing if you have a sourcing organization. I specifically spoke about dialing down the phone screens, right? If your rec load is too high, you can't phone screen 12 candidates per role. Just stop, be reasonable. And then again, ask the business to prioritize the recs, low, medium, high. We talked about that. I very early talked about understanding the threshold when the service begins to falter, and only you know what that is. For John, his service load, his service may start faltering at 12 recs. For Jane, it might be at 21, but they have to know once the service level is going to drop so you can alert the business internally. Proactively communicate with the business that, look, your time to fill may be elongated because of this. And then obviously lobby for additional headcount if you can and if you have the budget. So those are just some of the things that I had, but we covered most of them, I think.
Yeah, I think that answering questions before they're asked is a great way to lower the noise, so to speak, or the I don't want to say anger, but the anger that comes up with the rec's not getting filled.
It's not anger.
Right? Yeah. Some people get kind of pissed off sometimes. But yeah, and then Craig, I love
That's what kind of day it is.
Yeah, that's true.
The point about pre-setup, right? Having those external sources ready to go so you can step on the gas or take out your foot off the gas for that support services. Having that set up ahead of time is just paramount, I think. If you're leading that team, that should be kind of a given that you have those relationships to support your team when needed. I can't emphasize that point enough.
I interview recruiters all year long, right? And sometimes my team will spike from 12 to 20 because we just had a drug approved or whatnot. But, if a good CV comes across my desk in our business and we know what that looks like, of course you want to talk with that person. If nothing else, just talk shop. What trends are they seeing? I love getting on the phone with people that do what we do in the industries we're in, just to understand, hey, through your lens, what's changed now versus 18 months ago? Obviously, everyone's going to say COVID, but outside of that, business trends that you're seeing. I remember a conversation. Gosh, it was probably 10 years ago. This guy from an agency walked into my office. I was at Quintiles, and he said, "Craig, do you ever hear of the cloud?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I might have read something." He says, "It's going to be huge. This will be the biggest thing. Nobody knows about it right now, but I'll tell you, it's all anyone's going to be talking about in whatever 3 years." And sure enough, he was absolutely right. And it's those learnings you get when you have conversations with your peers in the industry to understand, what business priorities are being pushed down on, like DEI, right? Like there are a lot of people in the business who have no idea how strong the DEI imperative is now in, I'll say Fortune 2000 organizations. There's been a transformational shift, right? So while people in business may not know that, the executives certainly do, but your average line manager may not, everyone in HR knows that it's a huge priority, right? And it's not just to talk about it, but it's actually to make an impact with it and to have a genuine plan with genuine, actionable, measurable results.
But
Excellent.
everybody should be thinking of that, from the hiring managers to your CEO to everyone should be thinking about the AI, right?
we're going to get to a point where if it's a top 100 role in the company, we won't even allow the business to start the panel interview process until the pool is 50% diverse. We won't even push forward. A pool of highly qualified white males will not go through that interview process until we can make the pool 50% diverse. And we take it very seriously.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, that is. Especially for some roles, it's really hard to find diversity in some of the roles that you hire for.
And then you have to think about that messaging to the business, right? You're telling some VP they can't interview this amazingly talented person because we need to wait 30 days or 45 days to enhance the pool, make sure we have the right diversity in the pool. Then you can go forward and make a calibrated hire.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to come down from the OFCCP to make it that strong?
Oh, I can't speak for the OFCCP. I'm just saying that culturally at Jazz, we take DEI really, really seriously. We're putting, like a lot of companies, I'm sure, we're adding into our budget for 2021. We're talking about specific programs for it. So, we had somebody actually leading. We have dedicated headcount for it already, but we're probably going to double the size of that headcount too, because it's about making an impact, right? It can't just be words. It can't just be empathy, right? It has to be action and measurable action.
Well, I'll speak for him. I think it's going to be coming. It's going to be part of the regulations, I think, in the near future. I think it's just everything's heading in that direction.
Well, didn't Governor Newsom just sign something today in California? From I thought he signed something today from a board perspective. I'd have to look at it. I saw something flash across my Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not
someone's
sure.
agreeing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard they're doing it at the board level, but I bet you the OFC comes down at more of the individual computer level.
People they're chatting about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more thing for recruiters to do, right? to put on our desk.
Hey, I'm sorry to rush. I really do have to run.
Thank you very much.
I'm happy to answer any questions offline. Link in with me. Happy to have chats. Pleasure meeting everyone. Thanks for everyone's time today.
Thank you, Craig. And I think we'll wrap that up.
Have a great day.
Hour. Thank you very much, everybody, for everything. Much appreciate it. So thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Have a great day, guys.